Thank you for being here, Russell. We're excited to host you.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little more about your journey as an MVP.
Sure. It was a long and I wouldn't say it's a typical MVP journey. It's a long and winding road. I am a consultant for a software company, right? I started as a consultant, and from there, having the hardware electronics as a background is not really a typical of jumping into software, right? But one thing is common is there's automation both on the hardware side and the software side. So that's where automating something from the hardware is you can really bring or translate into the software side. So being an automation champion from the start of my career really is my foundation in being in this industry, right? So it's not just about being good at something, which everybody, lots of people can be good at something, but I think one of the main that can make you an outstanding or MVP, as one MVP, is being passionate about something. I'm passionate about automation. I started my career as an automation champion, and so that's it where it brought me to UiPath. Previously, before, I used batch script, I used VB, I used this high level or low level programming tools. And then when I came to know UiPath, that's where it became more productive. I was able to automate more. And then having that experience, I'm able to share with others, and that starts the evangelism, right? And from that point on, it's not just about doing my job for the sake of it, but doing my passion and then sharing it to others.
So UiPath gave you really the advanced platform to drive automation.
Absolutely.
And now at least we know where your passion from robotics comes from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us a little more about, obviously you've had this journey and you have seen automation evolve, you have seen AI evolve. Tell us a little more about how you have seen AI come from where you started a few years ago to right now when we're talking about generative AI and foundational models and large language models.
Absolutely. So there's lots of progress that happened only in just a span of 2, 3, or even just 5 years, right? So coming from rule-based type of automation where, yes, you can automate this type of mundane task, which is really the core of what automation is, right? Automating something from manufacturing to be able to be more productive. So that's the core goal of what automation is. In fact, that's the niche of what UiPath is. That was a few years ago. And then it makes sense to deep dive more into AI because AI enables more complex tasks to be automated, right? More tasks that would require, previously would require intelligence that only human has, but now with the consensus of data, with all this data that's available, and the models, the powerful infrastructure that we have, we are able to train these computer vision models and even the specialized models to extract from documents, unstructured, semi-structured, structured documents, and also identify objects, identify sentiments. All of this can now be done and infuse your automation to be able to cater more complex tasks that wasn't even possible before. So before it's just click here, type here, and then if else. Now you can even, in fact, you can do semantic automation, right? That's where we're heading. Semantic automation, you can just, this is the source, and what UiPath can do is semantically understand what this source is, whether it's a table, whether it's an unstructured form, and eventually specify what destination is, and then semantically matching the source from destination, which is mind-blowing.
I think that's an excellent point, and that has been, at least from what we have seen from customers and what we have been focused on as well, is making the promise of that semantic automation, being able to leverage automation using natural language real to a large extent. So I'm pretty excited about that that area myself, as are we as a company. But I'm just curious, as you have seen customers and others in Cubotica, for instance, look at all of these different sources and modes of AI, right? The computer vision, specialized AI models, generative AI. How do you bring it together in a way that it makes sense to an end user?
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, I think we all know that it is the user, or in fact the customer, that we want to transform how they work, right? And how we will do that is basically taking their pain points and challenges and be able to work through on that challenge, and then creating a solution for that, not the other way around. And that's how we at Cubotica, as well as a platinum partner of UiPath, go into customer and bring out the use cases that they have, whether it's attended automation or unattended automation, whether it would require AI or whether it be overkill to use AI, because sometimes it's just an easy solution. You don't have to use these fancy tools to automate, let's say, invoice processing.
Right.
Is there, right? But it would require document understanding, right? Which is a specialized form of AI that can extract intelligently documents, and you can train it.
Yeah.
Right? If it's form, you don't have to use AI. So those kinds of things, focusing on the problem and making a solution out for that, whether it involves AI or not, is the key thing. And what makes AI really provide more benefit is it helps us deliver more use cases much more efficiently, right? One instance is, let's say, for whether it's sales or operation sides of things. So I talked about unattended invoice processing. Now on the attended side, right, where a user, I would want to be, let's say, I have an invoice or with the associated statement of work. Now with attended automation or bots, I can interact with them now using agentic capabilities, providing them the documents. Then I can ask, is there any difference between this invoice and the SOW or the agreement? These two documents, can you highlight this? Because the SOW can be 50 pages, right? And I don't have the luxury of the time to review that. And as a finance clerk, I want to have an instant answer. So that's where AI really provide more benefit, is making this type of use cases more efficient and much more natural, interacting with a human.
You know, that's again a set of excellent points, a set of really great points on providing customers the choice, the solution that meets their needs, and not just having product for product's sake.
Yep.
And this is one of the areas, as you may very well know, that UiPath's heavily investing in is delivering the our AI capabilities as well as third-party AI capabilities in the format and surface area that the customer chooses. And one of the examples that I can think of, since you brought up the comparisons between two documents, something we recently released a demo for, is our investment in Autopilot.
Oh, that's nice.
So with Autopilot, you have the ability to interact with UiPath platform in a natural language way. And it essentially orchestrates your AI experience, across the different enterprise systems. In a way, I like to think of it as an orchestration layer, which works across the enterprise, no matter where the intelligence comes from. But we are not thinking of Autopilot just as a interface, but as a platform, and makes its capability available across wherever the customer, whatever surface area the customer chooses. So actually bringing out customer choice. You can use Autopilot directly. You can integrate Autopilot into your choice of or AI solution, purpose-built, or maybe not even an AI solution, like your invoice processing example. You can still use Autopilot capabilities under the hood and most recently announced our integration with Microsoft Copilot. You can use Autopilot capabilities and the UiPath platform from inside Microsoft Copilot, which I know a lot of our partners and customers were excited about. I know we were together at Build.
Yeah.
Of talking about that when we made the announcement. So I was curious how you see that particular Better Together story. How do you see Copilot and Autopilot kind of working together to deliver value for customers?
Absolutely. So that's actually, having used both Autopilot and Copilot firsthand, so I see them supplementary together. So they are best in class in their own domains, right? So as you said, Copilot is embedded within Microsoft ecosystem, so that makes it sure that it's grounded context with the users that are using it in the entire 365 ecosystem, so they have the data and the knowledge so that they can personalize whoever is using it. So that's a main purpose of Assistant. It should be personal to me. I mean, I should be able to use it as like my extension, right?
Yeah.
So that's Copilot, and where Autopilot comes in, and having that plug in into Copilot makes it even more powerful, because it's not just the typical Q&A, right, that you get to a chatbot or a personal assistant, but it can, not only it can respond something for you, but it can also do something for you, right? Act on your behalf. Let's say you want it to look at your emails, which is it can do in the context of 365, but also you want, let's say there are leads in your email. It can identify leads from the email, but you also want Autopilot to process that information for you in your Salesforce, in your ServiceNow, onboard a customer probably, and then being able to do, let's say you're a loan processor,
Right.
So it can process loans for you. It can interact with these automations through the power of Autopilot. And I've seen Autopilot does that firsthand, and that's the first step of agentic capabilities, which really is the next stage of automation, right? So AI plus automation really brings agentic capabilities of this technology much more.
I think that's a very powerful use case that you just articulated, because as we were discussing earlier, AI can come from everywhere and anywhere, right? There's AI in Zoom, in Slack, in Salesforce, in Microsoft Copilot. So the ability to orchestrate these experiences across all of these systems in a way that it can add value to the enterprise, that's a really powerful use case. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So as we go from where we are right now, which is frankly a lot of excitement, a lot of early activity, a lot of early customer value, and we mature into creating that big impact in the market. What do you see as next? What do you think is where customers are expecting next? Where do you think they will go?
Pretty good question, because what I see is what UiPath is bringing to the market right now is actually what provides me a window of looking at what the future brings. For example, semantic automation. That is something that's bleeding edge, not just cutting edge. It's a bleeding edge technology where you can actually materialize what they call agentic automation, or automation that can build by itself using AI, right? So you don't have to define the rules, you don't have to specify what screens that you're working on. It can auto-heal as well,
Yes.
right? So this semantic automation has the understanding of the context of what you're trying to do, and that makes it powerful, and it can automate things for you with a simple to medium type of task. So that's one. And it will be much more, I know, it will be much more refined once it gets to the market. And the other thing is, of course, we kept mentioning is agentic automation, which is really something that uses automation as the muscle and the power of the brain or thinking chain of thought or reasoning before choosing that automation or before calling out different automation. So think of LLM agents, right? React framework. It plans, it observes, then it performs action. So these are the types of automations, attended or agent assistant type of automation that we will see in the near future. And I think that's where UiPath is already going with this Autopilot and Copilot integrations as well.
That's a powerful point. How do you see these agentic models differ from large language models or generative AI models that are available right now and are being used in these assistants?
Absolutely. So what I see is LLM, large language model, are the core of agents, right? They cannot provide this reasoning, they cannot have this chain of thought without generative models at the back, at the core of it, right? So that's a key thing. Large language model are the core of LLM agents that has or uses a framework that can execute this type of more complex task. Because yes, you can interact with large language models, with generative AI to perform one-off tasks, right? One-off, like extract this and probably respond to this prompt. So you can do one-off, and probably you can incorporate memory and then use it as a chain, LLM chain. But with agents, it's more human-like, right? With agent capabilities. So you would let the large language model observe and based on that observation, provide reasoning in order to be able to derive the output before deriving the output. So it's more iterative. It just not just perform it one-off, but it's iterative. And as soon as it's confident to provide the answer, it will be able to respond.
So there is a fundamentally different design aspect to these.
Absolutely.
Than what exists right now. That's very insightful. And I think this is, as you rightfully pointed out, this is one area that we are looking at very closely. We are expecting our to deliver a lot of value to customers as these agentic models evolve.
Absolutely.
Maybe one last question.
Sure.
As you look across all the exciting things we discussed over the last few minutes, what do you see customers are most excited about? What do you think is the most exciting thing they will do over the next year?
So I can answer that in two ways. One is we are human and we interact with this technology like they are robots, right? Because we give them tasks that humans doesn't necessarily are fond of, so that we can focus on more creative things.
Right.
So first is as an agent. So interacting with these customers that we have, whether it's in fintech, whether it's in banking or healthcare, they all have a common goal. There's one thing in common that they want to achieve, not only for their company, but also for their workforce. Number one is making them more productive, right? But they cannot do that if they aren't able to make them more engaged in what they do. And that's where really this type of technology is. I, probably as an engineer, I wouldn't want to work on this clerical task, administrative task.
Right.
So this low-level types of tasks can be handed over to a robot, so I can focus on more design, creative, and I also want to make my hours or tasks more productive throughout the day. I want to have more throughput, right?
Right.
So productivity with the technology that we have right now of assistants, so even the design piece, even the more creative, the more judgmental, analytical type of task, this is getting infused by the technology that we have now, like Autopilot, right? I can have another set of eyes basically to look at what I'm doing, right? Or what if what I'm doing is based on the guidelines, right?
Right.
So one example that is in another domain, like for example, in a legal firm that we've interacted with, is they have these lawyers that has burned their years studying legal system for 10 years, right? And this particular use case, they have to go to a website, summarize articles based on tax reforms. And that's very repetitive. They have to read through the website and then
Right.
follow the guidelines. That can be done without studying 10 years of your life.
Interesting.
And that's really powerful use case where you can employ or use these tools like Autopilot to do that for you, right? And then you can review. What humans does best is review whatever the output of this bots are, and then make it more refined. So
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah.
So elevating employee
Yeah.
experiences and driving productivity. That's where you
Absolutely.
see our customers
Exactly.
going. Now, that's very insightful, Russell. Thank you for spending the time and sharing your insights with us. It has been a pleasure.